Thank you all for joining us in this summit hearing, as we will be discussing the greatest event that may happen within the next century, and that will be potential introduction of the humans to the galactic at large. For this, I have brought forth our fleet commander, who will bring in his opinion of the humans and whether or not they are ready to be integrated. It should be noted, before he begins, that the humans have not fully reached out, though they have called out and we have responded. It is though they cannot hear us. It is strange to this, and some light must be brought down onto this subject so that we can understand whether or not the humans can be trusted and make sure they remain safe from those who shall not be named in these sacred halls. Fleet Commander, you have the floor. Standing up, the strange, short biped creature cleared his throat and started, Thank you, Grand Chancellor. And thank you all for attending. I know it is difficult to tear yourselves out of your busy schedules. However, it is very important that we understand exactly what we're dealing with. As you know, approximately 80 of the human solar cycles ago, they sent up a pulse. 2, in fact. This allowed the galactic community at large to know that the humans have reached a certain level of technological evolution. The pulse itself was followed back to their home planet. To our absolute shock and dismay, we found out that the humans were busy infighting by the time we arrived there. They were very busy harming themselves with the same weapons that created the pulse. And it turns out said pulse was not designed to call out into the universe, but in fact was a giant mistake by the humans. We found this out 10 of their own solar rotations ago, after the pulse, as we started to send probes to their planet. During this time, we realized something about humanity. They were not completely defenseless. As it turns out, they were using some sort of electromagnetic weapon that we had never seen before. We didn't understand it, and many of our ships ended up going down or simply losing control. As it turns out, this weapon is hardly a directed energy weapon, at least it was not designed to be that way. As it is, it simply is designed to capture an image. The room began to shake and shimmer at this thought. Yes, I know it is strange, but understand that the humans did not build this one specifically as a weapon. In fact, if it wasn't for this invention, they would still most likely be infighting in the air, trying to figure out exactly where each person is, especially when the sun is on the opposite side of their planet. This brought a bit of a chuckle to everyone there, as night fighting was very common. It is of my understanding that this is why many of our probes and many of our recon teams were lost. In at least one instance, we found out that when we sent 3 of the probes, they were struck by this electromagnetic force and lost control, at least one did, and slammed into their sister ship. Both went down, destroying one completely, and the other one ended up crashing. Before the third one could actually make it over to the crash site to retrieve anyone, it was also hit by the electromagnetics and was paused. As you all know, human electromagnetic weapons have a strange ability to make things difficult on our engines. Is this because it uses the same frequency? Very similar. It uses a similar wavelength as well. This disturbed everyone. Do not concern yourself, as this cannot reach beyond their atmosphere, at least not very well. In fact, if it does reach beyond their atmosphere, the electromagnetics themselves are so weak it is laughable. However, it is still of note that almost every single one of our probes that we have sent that has been actually crewed has been shot down. Several of the messenger probes that we have sent have been brought up with skepticism by some reason. Many of those on Earth still do not believe these messages, though we have made them as clear as possible, to include showing them this picture of ourselves, along with a message encoded next to it. an image comes up next to him, showing the alien's face, along with a strange circular pattern that had certain ticks and movements in it. We placed these out in the open, and it was clear that the humans did in fact go in and make sure that they knew what it was. We have even increased the amount of radiation that we use specifically to show them that this was not a hoax and that this was completely synthetic. And this should have been enough to convince the entirety of their species of our presence so that they would actually call out and welcome us, as we will not show up without that. We have lost far too many ships, though we continue to try to probe them to see if there was an ability for us to actually talk to them. We have found out that this was not very much the case. In truth, to all those in the council, you must understand. When our ships crashed and we did attempt to recover them, we found out that the humans had recovered almost entirely intact ships. This allowed them to do what they call reverse engineering, and they have been able to create actual defense weapons. Weapons strong enough to disable our ships with directed energy. This made many of the council very, very nervous. Many of them flushed in different shades of gray and white. However, divine members of the council, I will let you know that the humans have not fully entered our domain. Though we have found that they have created a small fleet, considering the size of the human population on their home planet, this fleet is minuscule. And as I look across the crowd, I can see you have all the same question. Why? Why is a defense fleet so small with only a dozen of their what they call capital ships and several of their fighters? Yet they would not be able to hold up very well against the might of our fleet, let alone those that shall not be named. Let me inform everyone here that there is a reason why not only have they limited the amount of equipment that they have created to defend their own planet, and also a very good reason why we have decided not to engage directly with the humans to contact them. The reason is simple. They were too busy killing themselves. He sat there for a moment and let that sink in as many of the council began to converse amongst each other. Silence all. There will be order in this chamber. Continue, Fleet Commander. Thank you, sir. As we have seen and very much noted, they have started to fight with each other very, very violently. These violent crashes into each other have brought up a very sharp learning curve when it comes to their technology. However, it is strictly in atmosphere. We do not know why they insist on this, at least not until recently. A small piece of information has truly come to us as we have tried to get some sort of communication. Fleet Commander, you did not have permission to... I know, sir. However, I saw no choice in the matter. When we attempted to get a hold of all the human leaders on their planet, we found that our communications were being jammed. Our communications were stopped as they reached roughly lunar orbit. We realized that between lunar orbit and the atmosphere there was a ring of satellites specifically designed to check every single piece of data coming into the planet. Not only did it check it, but it blocked everything else. Nothing reached the surface without their say-so. As we couldn't figure out why they would do this. This had no way of camouflaging their planet. If anything, it made them easier to detect, especially for those who will not be named. We began to call out to any of the human leadership. And when we received a response, it was strange. It was several different humans we had never even heard of before. We inquired on their president. Hold on. He's president, yes, of the different powers, what they call superpowers on their planets. There was a very strong laughter that came from the council. Yes, I know, council members, the idea of calling themselves a superpower is very, very, very comical. However, this is the way they are. But we could not get a hold of any of them. As it turns out, they are being blocked by a group of humans that have decided to take almost a century's worth of their technology and hidden it from their population at large. I will show you. This is a picture and also a small video over here of one of their spacecraft. As you can see, it is a very ugly piece of machinery. However, it does in fact work. The only reason it looks anything similar to ours is the fact that they have copied much of our technologies. However, if you look at this over here, this is a picture of their most advanced fighter craft on Earth. At first, this may seem very well created, very well crafted, engineered. However, if you look, you will find it has no out-of-atmosphere engines. This craft is strictly in atmosphere. Why do they have this when their forces would be faced with something that would be beyond its range? Well, as it turns out, there are several groups out there, one in particular that we got stuck talking to, that insists that they are the true leaders of humanity. They control everything. They control the resources, the wealth of the entire planet, everything down to the rain that falls from its skies. Everything belongs to them as they say, own it. And since they own it, it belongs to them. And due to that, they have decided not to let the general population know of us. Along with that, they have decided to block any introduction of true power, as they are sticking with things like internal combustion engines, fusion rockets, and, oh, I have trouble actually saying this, nuclear power plants. The entire room at this point was completely baffled. Why would they do this, Fleet Commander? Simple, they wish for control. And because of this, we believe that the human race is not ready to be introduced to us as a whole. They have not received the level of technology needed to understand even a fraction of what we can bring to them. Then, your recommendation, Fleet Commander. When should we bring this to the table again? My recommendation to you, Chancellor, along with the rest of this council, is to hold off on communications and probes ever again until the humans have finally reached the zero realm. They all look confused. Isn't that simple technology, Fleet Commander? Yes, Chancellor, to us. But it seems that they are just finally getting ready to understand 0-point realms. And when they do finally create their first dual torsion 0-point flux capacitor, then they may be ready. Until then, I cannot cast a vote at all to claim that humans are ready. But my hope is that when they finally reach this level, they will break themselves free of their own shackles and be ready to leave their planet and join us up here in the stars. And at that point, council members, I hope you are ready for some very, very interesting times. And I can only hope that when that truly does happen, When they reach beyond their cradle world, they'll do something, or I should say, stop doing something, that will allow us to share technologies and live in peace out here in the stars. And they can finally join us and the rest of the galactic community against those who shall not be named. And what might that be, Fleet Commander? Simple, Chancellor. I just hope they stop shooting at us.